All right. What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Onyx Report, Black Masculinist news for the day. Hope everybody's well. My apologies for the last week. I've been a bit MIA, cooking up a storm here at the house. You know, my son's last little holiday season here at the house, so I thought I'd just do it up. So, you know, we've been cooking like crazy and all that good stuff. So that said, appreciate your patience and the support. Right, shout out to a bunch of you, everybody in the house already. Sam Saray, Clutch, got AL and Barry, Chef Mike, what's going on? I'm listening. What's up? You know, MLR, what's going on? M Lavo, appreciate that support, that suggestion. Let's see. Got William 3R, Prince Johnny, Clarence, Indigo, Queen Kalila, what's going on? We got Artisan in the house. Shout out to Artisan MC. Y'all support the Artisan MC channel. Check him out on Sunday mornings at 11 Pacific time. Get your reviews on all things related to geekdom. Right? Got BGS IBMOR in the house, of course. Brother Ian, what's good? Shocks 112 with the support. So you know when them drums drop that the intro the Elder Doc is about to call the village to order and impart wisdom. Well, much appreciated. We got to shout out Brother Green Gorilla for the beat, you know. So if you need a custom beat, you know who to talk to. Shout out to the Green Gorilla channel. He does that kind of work. So get with him. Mujahid, what's going on? So we got Barry in the house. Appreciate that support. Says for the war chest, BMI, BMA, BME, hashtag this is the way. That's what's up. That's right. Jay Cleveland, what's going on? You know, I was in here. Shocks 112 again. Says very little matched war chest. Much appreciated, man. Crip Hop Nation, what's good with you, man? Hope you're well. Ain't seen you in a minute. Brother Malika, what's going on? Shout out to Waffle Weave for the support. What's up? Mr. Blue Collar, what's going on? Right? So yeah, man, we got a lot going on today. And the spirit of today, I'm just going to get this out the way. Shout out to Dr. Rashid. What's good with you, man? Brother Clarence with the support. Yeah, peace to Lord Hasan, BGS IBMOR, salute generals. Much appreciated, good brother. Boost. Right? But I thought I'd get this out the way. Just take a second. If you want to know the spirit of tonight's response, I'll give it to you pretty straightforward.
Now I want to talk about it now. See,
Fred,
another reason
Fred, I said we'll talk about that some other time.
You don't tell me what I can talk about. You don't tell me what I can talk about in my own house.
Don't you point your finger at my nose, Fred Sanford.
I'll point my finger at your nose and I'll point my foot somewhere else.
So yeah, that's what we do. That's what we're dealing with tonight. We're dealing with bullshit as it comes to one of the brothers that we're gonna get to in a second. Shout out to M Lavo for the support. Says bless Doc. Be well, gents. That video on black men and anger and depression is really deep. We do fight depression with anger. All right. Shout out to T Fitness for the support. Much appreciated. Brother MLR. Much appreciated for that support. My black male scholars as always. Appreciate that. Now, but yeah, we had to go to the Fred Sanford because it is what it is. Let me bring my brothers into this. Shout out to Crip Hop Nation for that support. Brother BGS IBMOR and Brother G with a PhD, also known as the Green Gorilla. What's up, y'all?
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, BJ, shout out to you, man. Thank you, brother. You know what I'm saying.
No, not even no thanks needed, man. Okay, no thanks needed, man. All right,
for sure. But big up, man. Big up to y'all, man. How y'all doing this afternoon?
All right.
Man?
So what we got the PhD, we got the G in tonight.
Man, we got to get to this. We got to get to this. And
I
just
need, I need, I need to match the brother's energy. I need to know what twin I'm working with tonight.
Hey, is what it is.
Man, you know it is. Well, you're gonna get what you're gonna get. You know.
Man.
You know, some people you get taken aback. You know, I come with dark energy every now and then, but it's for a good purpose though.
Okay.
You know, so I'm like the Batman sometimes. You know, you got to be brutal sometimes.
Well, just to get things in order, and Gigi, just know I'm gonna match him. So that's what's up.
Oh man, word. Appreciate that.
But before we kick into tonight, I thought that for a quick second, I wanted to pay some homage to somebody that I probably had a crush on since before I was 10 years old. So let me just quickly acknowledge something real quick before we jump into this. For those who don't know, Sister Irene Cara passed away.
That's my baby.
Passed away yesterday. To my knowledge, they still don't know what the cause is, but she died at 63 years old. You can check this piece here at People Magazine or People. Go ahead and post it in the chat. But yeah, man. So if you're not familiar with Irene Cara, you definitely can look her up on YouTube. Listen to a few tracks. I'll let Brother BGS kind of tell you where you can really check it out.
Really go if you really want to see her. With I think it was her first movie, Sparkle. I think she was 16 when she made the movie.
Yeah.
And it's on YouTube. So look up Sparkle. 1976.
Yep. You can check her in Fame. I didn't really come of age. I saw her in Fame, but it was really DC Cab where I fell in love with her. But you know, but I didn't mean to interrupt. Gigi, you gonna say something about that real quick?
Oh no, not really. You know, I was a 12, 13, 14-year-old guy watching Fame or whatever on TV.
Right.
And I remember the movie Sparkle.
Yeah.
It's the one of the little light-skinned dudes, man, with green eyes that all the little chicks used to love, man. It was also in Sparkle, I think. I can't remember. You know, but it's, you know, like I remember the little light-skinned lady.
Talking about Philip Michael Thomas, the one that played
that's him.
Miami
That's him. Yeah, that's that guy.
Yeah,
and,
I met him once. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And the light-skinned lady who was in Sparkle, like the lead singer, or you know,
Lynette McKee. She was also in one of Richard Pryor's movie too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Lynette.
Yeah, she was the mulatto girl.
But that's the era of, you know, like high octane women, man. Back you know, back in the day, you know, before dating and mating. Went south. You know.
Oh yeah.
But like I said, I just wanted to shout her out real quick because that hit my heart, man. I was surprised to hear that. 63 is young, even for Black men, but for Black women, you know.
Oh yeah. That's 20 years short. Yeah.
Yeah. So shout out to Irene Cara. You know, peace to her and her family.
Oh yeah.
But we're gonna have to get into this. So, all these pop-ups get on my nerves. You know, let me get these pop-ups out the way. So,
Jarvis, take care of the pop-ups.
I wish I was at that level. You know, I ain't there yet. But so we here because I was bouncing around Twitter the other day, and I saw that one Dr. Tommy J. Curry was somewhat under attack, you know, on Twitter. And this is not a new thing, but there was something particularly, you know, vicious and egregious about it. Now, he takes it all in stride, you know, because he kind of, you know, expects it, but it's nonetheless something I don't think he deserves. And then it went and evolved into something else, right? Now, I'm gonna try to open up the tweets first so y'all can kind of see what I'm referring to. Crap. Got too many screens open up. Y'all know what that do.
Only you, man. Only you.
I'm trying to get it together. But here we go.
Some guys spend plates, you spend monitors.
Hey, we gotta do, bro.
You got them up? You got them up, Doc?
Yeah, I got it. So I'm about to plug the first one. So this is the one I ran across first. And it may be a little hard to see. So let me try and extend it up a little bit. But you
Yeah,
can
make it bigger. Make it a little bigger one more time.
a little bigger.
One more time. There you go.
All right. So somebody named Sweet Butter says, you know what I'm saying? It's good.
Oh man,
You can't.
come on,
You cannot
bro.
make this stuff up, man. I can't. I'm not
Sweet
gonna
butter,
cuss him.
butter, baby.
Sweet butter.
On
You
your
can't make
breakfast
this
toast,
stuff up.
baby.
Oh, Kevin KS is smiling. He cannot make this stuff up.
So,
So what did Sweet Butter say?
Sweet Butter says, I can't wait for the amazing Black female LGBTQ professors at Spelman College and Columbia who are working to set fire to Curry's logic and book. He's going to find out that big money will bring big brains to destroy his little theories. Any
Okay.
responses to that, fellas?
I'm saying, okay, they're just like Tiffany Cross, okay, telling us to get behind women. All you're gonna do is make us more famous. That's all you're doing. But like I say, bring it. If you can destroy his theories, and Dr. Tommy has never shrank from an intellectual battle or debate. Bring it. If you got it, bring it.
He hasn't. Not at all. And you can see his response right there. He says, I guess we will see.
Come on in here.
Yeah, the funny thing about it to me is, man, the Man Not was published in 2017, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I just want you to count the years in which there hasn't been a formal response by any major Black feminist or any other, major feminist. I mean, there was one article where I think that you, Dr. Johnson, and Curry were kind of critiqued together. Mm-hmm. But I haven't seen any formal critique of the Man Not. So the book was published in 2017. So let's count the years. Right. So in 2018, there was no response. Mm-hmm. 2019, there was no response. Mm-hmm. 2020, there was no response. 2021, there was no response. 2022, here we are. Like, how many years is that?
That's 5.
That's 5 years.
Yep.
No response.
But I believe in synchronicity, right? There's got to be a reason behind something. What triggered this response, right? He recently did, I think, like a year ago. This actually starting to come to light because Dr. Irene Frump actually did talk about this. The questioning of adding sex to the Title VII of the Civil Rights Bill.
Yeah.
Okay, that's recently been questioned over the last year or so. And I think this is what might be triggering it because it's okay to step on intersectional Black feminist toes, but when you step on others' toes, okay,
you
might
talking
get a
about
response.
White women?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, but like the one thing that I noticed, if you look at the Man Not, and if you look at most of what Curry's research covers from the beginning, from day one, it's critical of white women. Mm-hmm. And basically he says that, feminism has always been connected to white supremacy and racism. One of the main excuses or reasons that the early suffragettes used in order to advance themselves was that, why not us as opposed, to Black men? Like, why would you choose to have these savage, uncivilized, servile men be in control of our democracy when you can have your mothers, your sisters, and your daughters, be at the helm? Why not enfranchise us as opposed to enfranchising them? And so, and the excuse was we can keep America white and keep, the control going as opposed to sharing it and it mongrelizing, the white race. And so that was, from the very beginning, people like, Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton made those kind of arguments, okay? And so, so Curry's work has been critical of white women from the very beginning. But it's now, I guess, I can't say it's reached critical mass, though, because, even though this work has been out there for 5 years,
right?
I don't see it gaining traction outside of the academy.
The thing is, not the Man Not. I know they're using Man Not as an excuse because they don't want to point to the actual source of it, right? But Irene just put up that video, man, where you have a congressman, a female congressman, saying the exact same thing they said back in Katie Stanton said back in the 1850s, right? Okay.
Oh yeah. I remember you talking about like what Dr. Johnson posted on his Facebook page and what Arami
Yeah.
recently
Yeah.
put up.
Yeah.
Well, actually, and I'll play that in a minute, actually. But before that, I wanted
Go
to
ahead.
show you guys a little more about what I ran across. So this was some of the other stuff. Now, this was probably, actually, I was mistaken. This was the first one I saw. The other one I saw was after this. But this is the whole conversation. And this is in response to somebody named Martez Files, right? So Martez says, if you're explaining this as anything other than the totalizing impact of anti-Blackness, then I can't engage it, which includes all Black people who are disproportionately impacted by carceral logics. I do think Black men need space, but not over Black women. I hate Twitter, so I'm always a little unclear about what's going to what. But Dr. Curry's response is, this is nonsense. Black men make up the vast majority of the incarcerated and police homicides, yet you say it is anti-Blackness. When you discuss sexual assault or IPV, you say it is gender, not just anti-Blackness. So he's engaging, right? To a point, he's engaging some of this. And he continues. He says, why is the violence that affects Black men generic and the totalizing impact of anti-Blackness, but rape, sexual assault, etc., gender specific? Are you saying that with Black men being the vast majority of their experiences of incarceration should not overtake Black women who are the minority in this case? Martell shoots back. Dr. Curry, your training is not mine, nor mine yours. We're having an epistemological impasse. I simply cannot and will not accept this direction in research. You can have, I guess he's supposed to say you can have it. Please continue. I will forever work and write against it. We don't have to think alike. And they continue to go.
Yeah, put his hands in his ears and said, "Na na 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 na, I can't hear you."
Pretty much. There's a, and he says at a certain point, I will die.
I will die on this hill. He should have said that from the very first place. Ooh, you don't want to throw that one.
Bullshit.
Yeah, but you know, my response to that is, okay. So what's happened is Curry's work, for the most part, is an attempt to create a paradigm shift.
Right.
Okay. Yes. And people don't like paradigm shifts.
Of course.
And they'll do anything that they can in order to try to not have to deal with the paradigm shift. But the paradigm shift occurs because there's a crisis in information. Because the theory doesn't have the explanatory power it once had.
Right.
It's not actually covering the basis and explaining empirical phenomena the way the theory purports that it's supposed to. I mean, and so they don't want the gestalt. They don't want the shift. Yeah. And I can understand, because with the shift will come a change in, positions, perhaps maybe jobs, maybe, and what they've circled around for the longest, which is, intersectional identities. And I don't have a problem with intersectional identities, okay? Fine. However, don't try to crowd Black men out. Don't try to push us out, man, to the periphery and act as if we have all of this privilege, when all the data demonstrates that when you look at damn near every major indice of well-being, we're at the bottom of it.
Right.
Right. I mean, your theory explains that, to some degree, we should be enjoying the benefits associated with patriarchy. But the reality is that these people have patriarchy wrong. They really don't understand what it is.
No, they don't. They don't. And plus, if you're going to talk about intersectionality, which is actually identifying a cross-section of race and gender, how come Black women can have it and Black men can't?
Right.
If you're going, because you already made a divide between race and gender, okay, and cut us away from you. So you actually cut us into a circle. How come we can't express that circle? Because in other words, the barrier, the defense is for you and not for us.
Exactly. So I mean, essentially, what happened is a lot of people got behind the ethos and the norms and the value systems and the preferences of white women. I mean, let's just face it, man. Like, this is a white women's politics.
It is. Irene said that. And what did Irene say? We have the politics we have is because what white women care about and white women want to fight for. He said that expressly. The thing is, a lot of that went over people's heads. Okay, this is he was actually speaking reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but Tommy has been saying this from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I kind of, you know, I would have these conversations with Tommy, and, you know, the first thing I would say is, like, is there any way that you think that we could, like, you know, get beyond this impasse? Like, because I'm a deliberative democratic theorist, and I believe that, you know, it's possible to unblock blockages in speech, right? So meaning that, you know, there's a way to reach consensus, even if the consensus is something called overlapping consensus. But I won't get into all of the particulars about what that actually is. But I mean, you know, but as you see it, some people want blockages to exist primarily because it preserves their power. Okay?
Yeah.
You saw the same thing, you know, in the civil rights movement where blacks were like, let's have a conversation, let's talk. White people were like, no, we don't want to talk about it. We don't really need to have a conversation about this. And so what they did in the civil rights movement was they occupied public spaces and teased out the violence that already existed there so the world could see it, right? And but so it was actions, you know, on behalf of the people from the civil rights movement that kind of teased out what was actually underlying, you know, underneath the surface. But when it comes to this stuff right here, like this gender theory,
Yeah.
it's sacrosanct because the white woman is sacrosanct.
Mm-hmm.
And
To a point, yeah, to a point.
well, you know, black women feel like they can critique white women, okay, and call them Karens and talk about white tears and so on and so forth.
Yeah, they're a lot.
But I mean, by and large,
Until there's an opportunity for advancement.
Mm-hmm.
but by and large, you know, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the sex, you know, category was introduced, and so they've been wringing as much as they can out of that legislation as they possibly can, but not doing anything for the very people for whom the legislation was intended.
Exactly.
Now, black women, of course, they were intended to be the beneficiaries of such legislation, but not by themselves. It wasn't just designed for black women, but because white women hijacked it. Now I guess black women are like, okay, well, here's our lane. Don't mess up our lane. Don't cut us out because you're not involved or included.
Cut him out. Don't cut us out.
Precisely. And so everybody's saying that we have all this privilege, but the very thing which the dogs got sicked on us for, the hoses got sprayed on us for, the batons got hit on us for, the lynchings that we endure for, all of this was so that white women could just step in, like Bill Burr said, just swing their feet
The Gucci boots,
over the fence of of oppression and declare that they're a minority and that they somehow are at a disadvantage.
Well,
That's why. I'm sorry, Doc, man.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go
That's
ahead.
That's why I showed these pics. If I can find it,
Go ahead. Go in, Doc.
these are white women. Like, don't integrate our schools. I mean, you know, like these white women aren't hurting for anything, man. They don't look destitute. They don't look like they're, you know, like, you know how abuse victims look? Do these people look like abuse victims? Not by any stretch of the imagination. So the only thing I can come to the conclusion of is that it's all cap on their part. These women were present at lynchings.
Yep.
They were there during segregation, man, you know, yelling and spitting on black girls and boys. They were members of the Klan. Do they look like they are missing meals or that they can't go outside? And you know, like, I know what a prisoner is. I know what a prisoner looks like. I know what coercion looks like. Does this look like coercion?
No.
Does not.
No, not at all.
This does not. These people don't look like they're in bondage to me.
But
I'm just saying.
In the midst of all of this, though, notice that the people that are outright attacking him publicly on Twitter, for the most part, aren't even white women. It's not even white men, for that matter. When you look at the work of Richard Reeves, he's actually applauding Dr. Curry, citing him, and so on and so forth. Who's attacking him?
Well, look, I don't know who this sweet butter person is. I can surmise that it's a black woman. Okay.
I don't think it was a black woman personally.
Well, I do. Well, because of some of the other things that they've said, I believe that it is. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Because they went to talk about how they finessed some dude out of dollars or something like that. I don't know if you saw that part of the tweet.
And don't necessarily have to be a woman to do that either. So
Well, here's it. But I want to get to all the
you're
cards.
right. You're right.
Hold on. I want to get all the cards on the table
Okay,
before
go
we
ahead.
really dive in. So first and foremost, we got some support that I need to point out if I can. Let's see. All right. So shout out to Maurice on the Cash App. Shout out to Aaron, Shannon, Greg, Expansion Wiring. Shout out to Eric. Much appreciation for the support. Shocks 112. Appreciate that. Got the drop in there. So what we want to do is make sure that you guys are appreciated for all of the support you're extending. Like, share, subscribe, join, and donate. Please hit the like button so we can continue to bring you this kind of independent thought. So let me get that out the way. Here is where things kind of reached a whole nother point, at least for me, because I just seen the Twitter stuff, and then this thing hits up. So this is on Moguldom.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as familiar. I mean, I probably run across it, but it's not.
I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it. Most about rap and hip hop, mostly.
And this is, and I will, as usual, I have all the links in the, in the description box when I'm done. But top black male scholar Dr. Tommy Curry threatened. Spelman and Columbia LGBTQ are coming after you. Will set work on fire. Right. Written by Ann Brown, and this is the same day as the tweets where we were looking at some of the stuff. At least I believe it was the same day. So anyway, it reads, scholar Dr. Curry, whose focus is on black male studies, often sparks conversation and sometimes backlash for his theories on the state of black men in the U.S. and black feminists. Curry is a professor of philosophy who holds a personal chair in Africana philosophy and black male studies at the University of Edinburgh. He is also the author of the controversial book, The Man Not, Race, Class, Genre, and the Dilemmas of Black Manhood. Recently, his views resulted in an online threat that members of the LGBTQ community from Spelman and Columbia would come after Curry. Skip some of that. A tweet from the account named Sweet Butter kind of said, black women deal with the biggest threats and harm in society. Curry has a long history of stepping down on the issues that black women deal with. I got a whiff of Curry at an LGBTQ lecture at Spelman a few months ago. 3 femme professors are working together to combat his book. Right? In a follow-up tweet, he continued, or Sweet Butter continued, I can't wait for the amazing black female LGBTQ professors at Spelman and Columbia who are working to set fire to Curry's logic and book. He's going to find out that big money will bring big brains to destroy his little theories. Right? Continues. His 2017 book, The Man Not, Curry writes about the violence that black men are subjected to, saying it's not just physical violence, but sexual violence. I think there is more resistance presenting black males as victims amongst black academics than the black community. I often receive letters of support from black men who are survivors of rape and domestic violence, or black men suffering from disability or trauma, as well as black mothers. In the academy, black masculinity is understood under one lens, namely black feminism, he told KPFA in a 2017 interview. We have black men and boys who are hurt, abused, and raped by black women in their lives. We have black men and boys who are also hurt, abused, and raped by other black men in their lives as well. I tend to side with the victims in this regard, Curry added. The recent tweet on Twitter wasn't the first time Curry was threatened. In 2019, he said threats led him to leave the United States. At the time, he was tenured at Texas A&M University in philosophy. He received death threats for his comments on racial violence. He's accepted a teaching job in Scotland, according to a report from Emma Pettit in the Chronicle of Higher Education. Curry told the Chronicle he would be working at the University of Edinburgh as a professor of Africana philosophy and black male studies. He said he was attacked online by white supremacists, something he said stains you in a certain way in the U.S. job market, right? And it extends from there, right? But this is basically what we're dealing with. So he dealt with white supremacist attacks against him while at Texas A&M, and then from there has been under attack, especially by black feminists. Any responses to this, fellas?
I'm not surprised.
But look, this is the way I look at it, and I think Dr. Curry would agree with this. Like, I mean, the academics is a contact sport, man. You put a theory out there, it gets critiqued, and there's a dialogue that goes back and forth, predicated upon what you said, the opposition to what you said, if they have any argumentation or evidence to the contrary, and then you work out what the truth is based upon the conversation or the dialogue.
Right.
I mean, but largely, there's been no response.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, like, so look, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Spelman, but how many high-powered academics are there? Like, it's not known for its research acumen. Spelman is. Now, Columbia, on the other hand, might be, but like, who's there is going to really actually respond to his work? Some like assistant professors or something like that? Like, come on, bro. The heavyweights should have come out and critiqued this work a long time ago.
Yes. Yeah.
The bottom line, the conversation should have been started, and basically, it should have been elevated a minute ago. But the book has been out for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Now you want to respond? It's almost as if it's too late for for you to have any, substantive critique. And it's either one or two things are happening here. Mm-hmm. One, they're ignoring the work because they just don't want to give the work any attention and propel it any further than what it's already being propelled.
Yeah. Yep.
Or two, they just actually don't have any response. And when reading The Man Not, there's some theory in there. I see it, but a lot of it is historiography, man. It's just going over what has happened. Like, let's look at the categories that existed at time T1, time T2, and time T3. Let's see if they square up with each other. Like, are we making reference to the same things when we use the same terms? Okay? And this patriarchy even exists in the 18th and the 19th centuries, right? Like, and if it does exist, if they do exist, like, what comparison and contrast can we make predicated upon the term? Like, do they actually mean the same thing in the 19th century as they do now? I mean, so he does a lot of historiography and a lot of, for a lack of better terms, philology. But I mean, either he's accurate or he's inaccurate. And I mean, and for the most part, the evidence is staring you right in the face. Did these white women say these things? Yes, they did.
Mm-hmm.
But this,
now, if they said it, how do you square the history with the claims being made today?
but here's part of the problem. There's not really an honest response. Even the tweets are mostly, ad hominem attacks against, who they think he is. Right. That's first and foremost. It's not even a genuine attack. Even the text you mentioned, which I'm going to respond to in my upcoming book, where he and I were both critiqued in an article written by two feminists. The critiques were disingenuous. They didn't even really quote or identify what was said. They were slights based on, again, ad hominem attacks of both us as individuals and our work. Nothing dealing with the content of the work itself or with the arguments on the table. Nothing.
It's about feeling. Yeah,
it's about feeling, but a lot of it is based on what I consider to be an overall straw man argument. It's based on reframing, and I think this is what happens to many of us, that are doing this work online as well in the social media, in relation to the manosphere. It's this idea that we're not going to actually quote you. We're not going to actually listen to what you're saying. We're going to recharacterize what we think you're saying based on how we feel. And this happens to me all the time. I get feminists that attack me, even family members, and I'm saying, okay, well, what's wrong? Well, I don't like what you say. You're sexist. Okay, what did I say that was sexist? Well, I didn't like the title of your video. Okay, well, what about what I said was a problem? Well, some people in your chat hate women. Okay, maybe that's so, but what did I actually say? And the same thing can be said with Dr. Curry's Man Not. Most of the time when you hear these feminists that have a problem with it, they can't tell you something specific. What they tell you and they allude to is that Curry and others must hate women. When you really get to the core of why, it's because there's actually a critique levied at some things that have happened historically, or some behaviors, some practices. I mean, one of the recent pieces that we talked about on our channels that Tommy wrote had to do with Black feminists actually taking direct citations from racist white scholarship about Black
Yeah,
men.
about Black men.
That material as their starting point for characterizing Black men. And Curry does the meticulous work of actually examining what I call the fingerprints. Like he cites which Black feminists are citing which white scholars.
He does a forensic job of actually, gathering the evidence.
So he's got the receipts because he's actually reading the literature.
Yes.
Whereas a lot of these people, like, just to be quite honest, they're not they don't work as hard as he does. He's like Kobe on the squad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's always in the gym, which in his case is the library. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So he's always reading and looking, for evidence to either, confirm or deny what he's theorizing about. But I mean, ultimately, there's really not a lot to argue about. No. In relation to the man not. Like, does America have an anti-Black misandrist problem? Yes. It's certain to appear in other areas. Even in Black culture, you're going to see anti-Black misandry. We've even noted how even in the Black manosphere, you see traces of anti-Black misandry. And the place is dedicated to uplifting Black men and allowing men to frustrate and vent. But the whole point is, to argue like that America is going to have institutions that are relatively benign and that don't somehow have this thread running through them, this anti-Black misandrist thread running through them, you're not going to find it. The institutions are the legal, the executive, legislative, and the bureaucratic institutions in the United States of America, the penal institutions have all been predicated upon slavery. The property institutions, all of them have been predicated upon slavery. And to think that you're not going to find threads of anti-Black misandry in every institution in this country it's absurd.
Yeah.
Well, and this is something I want to point out. This is recently just said in the chat. So Ace Butterfly, who's a frequent listener, she says the comment that you hate women is because there's very little positive things said about Black women, only criticism. Now, this is interesting to me because I think this does characterize why people, suggest that, Curry or others hate women. But here's the problem. We've literally listened to 4 decades of criticism of Black men, not only from street level or whatever, from street level conversation to media, right, to the academic space, to the academy. We've heard the same types of criticism from each of those sources for decades.
50 years, yeah.
And Black men haven't really responded in any organized way until the last decade, where Black men have started to form the language for what exactly they have an issue with. And you got the nerve to have people come tell you that your argument is invalid and you hate women simply because you're responding and you're not saying enough positive things about women. But I can tell you, as somebody that did 2 bachelor's degrees, a master's, a certificate, and a PhD, I heard very little to no positivity from many of these feminists whose approach is considered the only valid gender theory when it comes to the Black Academy, as far as how we are to even talk about it, whether you're talking about Black feminism directly or Black queer studies. The framework has always been very anti-heterosexual Black male.
Black male, and still is.
Black males weren't responding.
Yeah,
and
still
so it's
is.
interesting to me that the characterization, thank you, Gigi, that the characterization of Black men is somehow in question, but we've had 50 years of this shit.
And it's online. Online, it still is. And when Black women do praise Black men and say something positive about Black men, guess what happens? They get labeled as a pick me.
Yeah.
So it's gotten to the point where, look, the very idea that there are certain groups of persons who could be critiqued and certain groups of persons who can't be critiqued is asinine to me.
Right.
Okay. And my whole viewpoint from the beginning, and I'm a critical thinker, right? I mean, as a philosopher, you have to be a critical thinker. And so one of the things to me that I find to be contradictory is to critique but not be amenable to critique, to to point fingers but not to allow for the pointing of fingers back in the direction from which the pointing originated. So my whole thing is, especially in academia, you're supposed to be engaged in a non-stop process of critique and evaluation and reevaluation.
Right.
But what happens when you have disciplines that don't permit for any,
Yes.
or don't allow for any room of dissent,
Right.
or any room for critique at all, because the premises are assumed to be true, or the theories are assumed to be true, without even, any kind of falsification measures being taken to ascertain whether or not the theorizing actually, matches up with empirical data or with, even critical deductive reasoning.
Right.
Right. So I just have an issue with the methodology. And man, look, this is my honest thought is that the norms and the values of feigning couch white women are now the predominant values in the academy, in the media, and in politics. And because white women have often been perceived to be above reproach, everybody who utilizes the zeitgeist of what they've started is, can't be touched either. It's like it's taboo. You don't criticize them. You extol their virtues. And then it all goes back to Victorian morality to me.
Right.
Yeah. I have a question though, right? The vast majority of Dr. Curry's work is actually pointing the finger at white supremacy, especially white men and white women. Why do black women have a problem with that?
Hmm.
Because most of the work I see, I mean, do black women have some blame in his work? Sure, they do. But the thing is, for the most part, he's not pointing the finger at them. He's pointing the finger at the white power structure. Why do black women have a problem with that?
Well, and I think what he's also doing is he's suggesting that there has been complicity, right? He's suggesting that some of the advancement that we're not allowed to talk about, that only primarily, benefits black women over any other demographic in the community,
right?
Somehow, that relationship between them, white women, the establishment, however we want to frame it, is not to be discussed. And in the midst of all of these slights and attacks at black men, there's all the more reason for us to discuss it, but we're not allowed to. There's a certain kind of gynocratic, practice that we seem to have in the academy when it comes to talking about gender or anything gender related, that you're not allowed to bring up anything that might make, someone uncomfortable as far as women or LGBTs, which translates to black men shutting the hell up. That's really the only acceptable response that you're allowed to have as a black academic if you're going to deal with issues of gender, most particularly if you're male and heterosexual. The only option you really have is to shut the hell up, right? As if we're somehow, and then part of that is this flat maleness idea that we're somehow in alignment with the white supremacy in the state simply because we have penises. That's the general idea, that men benefit from patriarchy simply because they have penises, and therefore black men need to act like white men, sit there and shut the hell up and be told.
Where my benefits at?
Yeah, but here's the funny thing about all of that. And I've often said this, okay? So you take white women, right? And their entry point into being labeled or categorized as a minority group, and the reasons for which, they make many of the claims that they do. They say that they're not on par with that of white men, okay? So one of the things that they call for, like, continuously is to receive the same amount of money as white men, right? When they work. So they want to be like white men in terms of how much they get paid. They want to be able to hold the offices that white men have traditionally held, correct?
Right.
So they want white male power, okay? Now black women, as feminists, want what white women have, right? They want the power. They don't want to be beneath white women, nor do they want to be beneath white men, right? So, but none of this implies that they're chasing patriarchy.
Right.
Yes.
However, if a black man wants to occupy a space where powerful white men are, or where powerful white women are, or even where black women are, then they're reinforcing the white patriarchy, or they're the white people or black people. They need to be checked. Their privilege does. And I'm thinking, how's this even a possible theoretical notion that could be upheld in the context of the academy? How can everybody else be chasing the accoutrements of white male patriarchy, but black men have to stop short and settle for less while all these other groups are edified as they seek to ascertain the same thing?
Somebody's got to be the step stool, okay?
It's just absolutely absurd to me.
Yeah.
That everybody can be chasing the so-called white male dragon, but black men have to not even to desire to be in the position of where white men are is anathema. It's tantamount to injustice and oppression and domination. I find it absurd. Okay, but the other thing is, I think these by association. I think Dr. Johnson is right when he said that by association, they're also culpable for proliferating anti-black misandry, and they don't like having to bear responsibility for that. They don't want to be held responsible. They don't want to be culpable for actually being regressive because they perceive themselves as doing something that's just. I mean, they really actually, in their minds, they feel like what they're doing is right and just.
Well, and
right?
you've heard the logic in these courses. I mean, I know you have, Gigi, where they'll actually tell you when black women are doing well, everybody else is doing well. So we don't need to talk about everybody else. We just need to make sure black women are doing well. And I don't respond to that with a desire for black women not to do well. My response is that's a disingenuous and ill thought out premise.
It's a lie.
But see, that gets reframed as, well, you hate women. That's the logic. Okay. And that's what Dr. Curry is grappling with when it comes to his work, not only in The Man Not, but in general.
So in other words, this is a bizarre world where the truth becomes a lie. Okay,
it absolutely is.
Yeah,
it absolutely is. I want to show you something. This is something Dr. Curry just posted on Facebook. I know you guys. Let me see if I can enlarge it a little bit, and then I'll read it out. Right. So Dr. Curry says, in short, Title VII legislation and the subsequent theory of intersectionality is bogus, because the whole point of adding sex was to make sure the white woman was not disadvantaged to the black woman in employment decisions, right? And he's citing this piece here. Mr. Andrews of Alabama, Mr. Chairman, I move to strike out the last word and rise in support of the amendment. Mr. Chairman, I rise in support of this amendment offered by the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Smith. Unless this amendment is adopted, the white woman of this country would be drastically discriminated against in favor of a Negro woman. If a white woman and a Negro woman applied for the same job and each woman had the identical qualifications, the chances are about 99-1 that the Negro woman would be given the job, because if the employer did not give the job to the Negro woman, he could be prosecuted under this bill. Failure to employ the white woman would not subject the employer to such action. Common sense tells us that the employer would hire the Negro woman to avoid prosecution. The white woman will be at a great disadvantage in the business world unless this amendment is adopted. Now, I always have trouble with this. You guys are going to have to tell me. That's not the one. All right, hold on. Here we go. I don't know if the sound will come across on this. Let me see.
Put a 1 in the chat if you guys can hear it.
Did you guys hear that at all?
No. Try it again.
Here we go. Let me see.
Nope, can't hear it.
Did you hear anything?
Nope.
No.
Yeah. See, I always have this trouble. I don't know why it won't come through. Let me see. Let me try one more thing. Did you hear that?
No, maybe if you send it to me, maybe I can get the audio to come through.
Okay, here, I'll post it and send it to you in the back chat. Hopefully it'll come through. For some reason, Facebook and my system do not get along.
Oh, you go to Irene's page, it's actually posted as a short.
Yeah, it's a short. This is the short here, but for some reason on Facebook, it won't let me play it. So
you could go to YouTube and go on Irene's page as a short.
Oh, you said on YouTube. Okay.
Yeah, try that. If that doesn't work, then I'll try my way.
All right, let me get this off the screen, because I think it's important to actually be able to see
And hear what she said, because she didn't equivocate either.
But the reason I bring that up is because this is actually the work that Curry has been consistently doing, whether it takes us to white women, black women, white supremacy, it doesn't matter. I'm saying you said it was on his community page. Oh, I see it. Here we go.
Yeah. The video is a short. Yeah.
Hold on. I think I can. Okay, hold on. We are almost there, folks.
And just share it. Yeah, just share it from
I am.
StreamYard.
I just had to bring it up. Like I said, when I'm working with multiple screens, y'all.
Spinning plates, man. Spinning plates.
I'm trying to get my game together, but here we go. So hopefully you guys will hear this. So tell me if you can hear it.
No, you can't hear it.
Can't hear it.
You got it. You check the box when you shared it?
You know what? That might be the answer for this one. So let me try that again. Because when I initially shared it, I wasn't sharing anything sound related. So this will be the last time, and then I'm gonna hand it to Gigi and see if he can fix it. All right, so let's try this again. Here we go. Did you hear that?
No.
It's a conspiracy, man. I don't know.
It's conspiracy, huh?
Exactly.
Conspiracy.
I believe Gigi to it.
Give it to the pinball wizard.
Man, every system I have is telling me the sound is coming through, but it won't.
All right, so let me try to get this pulled up. I don't know if this is gonna work, but we're gonna try.
There we go.
Did you hear that? Like when I'm playing it, could you hear anything?
No.
Let me see.
Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to
Here, and I'll send you both the link for Irene's video if that makes any difference. This should not be this hard, though.
Yeah, but sometimes, man, technology it's not agreeable all the time.
Right.
It just is what it is.
I'm downloading.
It could be one little function that you didn't perform, and it could have a cascading effect over everything else. So, have no fear. Gigi is here.
I think I got it. I think I have a way too. Yeah, you know what? Let me try this real quick. Okay. Because I actually did download it, so we're gonna try this. And if this don't work, Gigi got something backed up. So,
what's important changes that have taken place.
Did you guys hear that?
I heard that
loud and clear.
All right, so now we in business. So here we go.
What's important changes that have taken place in respect to the status of women since you've been in Congress?
Well, I think perhaps most important was the one that added sex to the bill of 1964. This bill was drafted really to help Negroes. Now, it wasn't clear. It would have meant that Negro women would have been given rights that were not available to white women. Therefore, we added sex. It is my belief that the drafters had assumed that no women would get any rights. So that I think both white and black women were helped by the bill.
Okay.
Oh, how generous. Both black and white women, huh? How generous.
Were helped by the bill, right. But what Curry is doing with this work is he's highlighting the history, what Gigi was pointing to earlier. And his forte really is also the history of ideas, right? History of context for a lot of what we take on theoretically and historically as a norm. He breaks this history down. So when he talks about feminism, by no means is he limiting that to black feminism. But he does he has no problem talking about some of the practices within black feminist, goings-ons that inadvertently are used against black men. And he's been one of the most principled and consistent in the academy that's kind of shown the way for us to draw that critique a lot. Now, here's the thing. There are a lot of brothers who've had these critiques under the table. Now, there's a couple that have published on them over time, going from Robert Staples and onward. But a lot of brothers are under the table. And I know this because it's when I get with these brothers at a conference and I get a beer in them that they will drop everything we're talking out there. They know it. Brothers do know this work, even in the academy. But the extent to which they can say it publicly may be a career-ending gesture. So they don't. Curry was able to do it and do it with the proper amount of citation, proper amount of reference, proper amount of due diligence, so that any critique. You're not really even critiquing him. You have to critique the source of what he's referencing. And most people don't bother because in many respects, he's right. And so instead, the idea has been to dismiss his work, attack him ad hominem style, and deflect from the argument to make it about anything other than what he's talking about. Ergo, you hate black women, which is the same as your mama black, all these kinds of disingenuous arguments that dismiss the actual argument on the table. That's the problem we're looking at here. And that's what's being levied against black male studies and by extension to the black manosphere. And those are two different things, but they're inspired by the situations, the realities, and the experiences of black men, most particularly, and boys, who have had no stage to respond to this kind of onslaught that we've been experiencing, even from within the community and within the academy, in reference to the Black Academy, in alignment with white feminism and white supremacy in general. So these are the kinds of critiques that we've just been starting to articulate, and this is the kind of response we're getting.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, these women knew full well that, they were trying to nullify the Civil Rights Act.
Yeah.
This is what Bill Burr means when he says white women just swung their feet, their Gucci booty feet, over the fence of oppression and secured
the front of the line.
What black people risked their lives for. What they got, billy clubbed and had dogs sicked on them and water hoses, sicked on them for. So they just said, okay, well, look, we're white women and we deserve rights too. Although they never had undergone 250 years of slavery, 100 years of Jim Crow, and God knows what else, what other forms of oppression existed within those. Okay, they just didn't suffer like black people did, but they just decided we're going to take over what was basically allotted and allocated for black folks, and but thereby they nullified the entire movement. They took it over. They hijacked it.
They hijacked it.
And so now you have an entire constellation of people with identity claims, and they all come from what was, basically categorized in the Civil Rights Act. So now gay people, trans people, people with religious identifications. Now everybody's talking about how they're being violated in relation to the Civil Rights Act.
Even immigrants coming across the border.
Everybody's trying to squeeze like blood out of a turnip. They're trying to get as much as they can out of the Civil Rights Act. But that's why, recently I showed a video about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and what he said about it. I mean, the first thing he said was, okay, the first phase of the Civil Rights Act is to get rid of the overt discrimination, the overt oppression, and the brutality. That's the first phase.
Yeah.
But the next phase is to move to a distributive and an economic phase that, the target is more amorphous, it's more difficult to pinpoint, but nonetheless, it's the more substantive leg of the culmination of what the Civil Rights Act really is supposed to be about. And so we haven't even begun to move towards the second step because everybody's still stuck in the first phase, which is this phase of trying to basically, assert that there's some sort of overt oppression going on to everybody but black folks. I mean, now you got subcategories of black folks who consider themselves to be multiply oppressed or, suffering from double, triple, or quadruple jeopardy on the account of their identities, but we haven't even dealt with race.
Right.
We're not going to ever be able to deal with it without it being dealt with the way that, white women are comfortable with it being dealt with. And that's the problem. That's the issue. But see, white men are beginning to push back against this shit now.
Now, I want to say this before we move forward, and I want BGS to chime in, but I post this here because, again, despite how many may not want to see Dr. Curry or this work on black male studies, expand, it's expanding nonetheless.
Yes.
So you guys know Yahya, famous actor. But look at what we're talking about here. He identifies The Man Not by Tommy Curry as one of his 10 important book picks, right? So this is going around. And this has been happening for 5 years. The book has been getting around in all kinds of ways for years, right?
And this book is not about hate. This book is not about hating anybody. It's about exposing hate.
Right.
It's about pointing out the various ways in which colonial imperialism is still being enacted in American culture, and racism is still being enacted in American culture. But people refuse to see it because people refuse to critique white women because they're sacrosanct, or women in general, because they're sacrosanct. They're automatically imbued with Skittles and Sprites, and they're
Skittles.
You know, I mean, I'm seriously, man. You got to think about this.
Skittles and Sprites.
They are sugar and spice and everything nice, and men are snips and snails and puppy dog tails. Like, men are the ones who are rough and violent. Women are the ones who are moral. They're virtuous. They're caring. Yeah. Men are not. Okay, and these are just assumptions predicated upon gender that they want to explode. Right. They say they want to explode, but they reify them by means of their own, their own theorizing. And I can't for the life of me figure out how they're going to be able to uphold it other than through this charm, this enchantment of the Victorian womanhood, which is culturally specific, okay? And it's specific to a point in time that really hasn't been explored. I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of people have studied Victorian womanhood, but not in relation to racism. I guarantee you're not going to get too many research finds from putting that query out there: Victorian womanhood and racism.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You're probably not going to find it, but at the end of the day, I think we need the conversation. I wish these Spelman professors would come up, step into the arena and the crucible, and put their work out there. Put it out. Have the conversation. Because that's all we really want to begin with. Have the conversation.
You see how that's gone so far when they have stepped into the arena. It hasn't gone well for them.
Man, dude, I've been around. Like, I've worked at 2 different universities where I've had. I've strongly advocated for Curry to come to speak.
Right.
Okay. And he has come, and some of the people will say, well, I don't like his tone. He's quite acerbic. And I say, well, aren't you an advocate for, stopping tone policing? But why are you trying to tone police him?
Right.
You say you don't like tone policing and that it's oppressive, and it doesn't allow for a full range of human expression and indignation and injustice. But when it comes to a black man being indignant, you want him to police his tone.
You ain't got your hat in your hand and your eyes down.
Yeah.
And to think that now you have a cadre of black scholars who are demanding that, a black man be tone policed? I don't like his tone. I don't like how he says what he says. Who cares how he's saying what he's saying? What is the content of what he's actually saying? What is he exactly saying?
Yeah.
And you can't. This oppression Olympics game, man, it's a hell of a game, bro. I can tell you right now. I just don't.
It is what it is.
It's a hell of a game. And if we don't find a way to actually start talking to each other with candor, I don't know how to overcome the impasse.
But this is the whole tone argument is a disingenuous argument. It really is. Because if tone actually fucking mattered, then people would have been tone checking black feminists for decades. Because when it comes to critiquing black men, there is no unacceptable method of doing so. There's no unacceptable tone that's not permitted that others will check black feminists on. Again, even when black men hadn't had a stage to respond on, nobody checked it. I mean, we know, for example, and this is one of many we can pull out, and this is probably one of the more popular, but when we talk about bell hooks, and God bless the dead, I don't mean any disrespect, but at the end of the day, what did she suggest about black men when it came to the brothers in New York. What did they call them? The brothers.
Central Park 5.
Central Park 5, yeah. What was her? Who tone checked her? Who suggested that she was out of pocket for not only vilifying them, but then in turn vilifying black men as a group based on her interpretation of the Central Park 5? Who tone checked her? When was tone checking not permissible when it came to critiquing black men? Tell me when that happened. But all of a sudden, tone is an issue. We heard this with Kevin Samuels. We heard this with Tommy Curry. We've definitely heard this with all three of us up here. At some point, somebody comes in and tell you your tone is a problem. But I've literally sat in classes with professors, black feminist professors who range from 30s to 70s. And I've had them talk shit about black men in the most overt and crass ways, but also in some of the most erudite, passive aggressive methods that sounded professional, but at the end of the day were no more valuable or insightful than some street level cussing you out level shit. And I've heard it happen in classrooms, at lectures, in conferences. I've seen the erasure of black male voices and even the black male image when nobody would respond to protect black men, even against fallacious information that feminists were posting. Nobody tone checked or even site check arguments being made, and somehow it's acceptable.
But I'm gonna tell you,
when you have Curry just raising a significant text with a great deal of research, all of a sudden that we just gonna dismiss that as he hates black women.
Yeah, he hates black women, or I don't like his tone. Okay.
Yeah, they just want black men to keep their heads down and be quiet. At the end of the day, white women don't want black men speaking. Black women don't want black men speaking. Queer folk, and who concocted this argument that there's something called black male privilege, they don't want black men speaking. So, at the end of the day, here's an instance in which a black man has spoken definitively and quite loudly. Curry is not the type of guy who really actually shies away or backs down from confrontation. He just doesn't do it.
He doesn't do it, no.
I've seen him, he just does not do it. I'm pretty much the same way. Like, if I believe firmly in an idea or that I'm right about a matter, I'm not going to back down and then, try to withdraw and to retreat and to shrink and be obsequious and toady for the sake of saving face in order to, appear to be observing etiquette. These people aren't observing etiquette when our bodies are being chalked and, lined in chalk.
Right.
They're not observing etiquette when, we get relegated to the prison from the school.
Right.
These people are not observing etiquette when they stop and frisk us. Okay? No. Or when they call the police on us because we're in a place where they don't feel we should be.
Right.
Okay, so the idea that we got to back down, we have to observe, the rules of etiquette and don't make people feel threatened. Don't use your big black body in such a way that you might be perceived as a threat. and that pretty much is the claim that's being made, that black men are dangerous. The kind of speech that he's saying is dangerous, and it can inspire more danger, more radicality, which would lead to more vulnerable and weak people being hurt and harmed. So those are the kind of claims that people make about the work. And everybody's just losing sight of the fact that, okay, well, weren't white women like some of the biggest sexual assaulters and the causes of black death on the planet, period? I'm just saying, period. Weren't they part of the colonial, genocidal, settler, imperialistic project? Were they not? And how can you basically say that they had no part to play in it when you see them sitting there in Klan garb?
Right.
How can you say that they weren't participants in it when they have signs in their hands saying, I don't want my children to go to school with the darkies? How can you absolve them of any responsibility? And that's the point. The point is that genders work in concert in order to maintain hegemony and domination. They don't do it apart from each other. They work as a team to do so.
Right.
But contemporarily, we have to make believe that doesn't actually happen. And what it does is it actually prevents black people from ever coming together. They have perfected balkanization techniques, and it's working on us like a charm. So as they work in concert with each other through this whole gender construct, we're at war with each other.
Right.
And not to say that some, white women aren't at war with white guys or whatever. Like, there's no argumentation going on there. But the fact remains, the second wealthiest group in the United States are white women. And when their husbands die, the wealth goes to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So while we sit here and argue, like I have, God bless my friend, man, a good friend of mine. He wanted to talk about the wage gap, the gender wage gap. I'm like, dude, what about the black-white wealth gap? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the incarceration gap. Let's have a conversation about that. Let's talk about the education gap.
Or as Richard Reeves talked about the black gender gap between black men and black women. He said it's so big that it's bigger than every other gender gap from other groups of people. It's huge as far as education.
But he's a white man.
Yeah.
See, and Tommy Curry just said something about this.
Right.
In a chat that I'm in, we in a chat. Man, we always in contact with each other. Okay. Right. So I mean, this idea that somehow we, like the work that he's doing is just so far apart and we can't contact each other and put our fingers on each other. We're always in contact with each other. Okay. He just recently said Richard Reeves is getting all this attention. He's actually able to appear on major networks and talk about these ideas. They haven't really enlisted me to have these conversations to a wider demographic by means of popular media. I mean, I'm relegated to the halls of the academy. Right. Why can't I blow up like Reeves and have a larger audience in order to articulate these thoughts and these ideas? Why am I being partitioned?
Because he's not connected. You got to understand when Brookings is a military arm. Okay, it's a military arm, and Brookings is there to Brookings actually attends to mostly defense ideology, defense topics, right? So if he weighs in on it, somebody like Richard Reeves and Brookings weighs in on it, becomes a security item.
Issue. Yeah.
Really, what it is, okay. If I can take with you, Grace, because you guys are the scholars. Yeah, I'm not. I'm a nobody. Okay. So, but the thing is, what's really going on, if you look at what's going on, especially after COVID, right? Just before COVID, and especially during COVID, right? You have what's going on is what me and nameless protagonists call the mouse utopia, right? Which is the separation, the separation of male and females and the breakdown of the society, right? And what males are doing since this feminist wave has spread throughout the whole world, right? In Asia, in Western Europe, you have what they call we call it the Great Resignation, right? Okay, we call it, they call it lying flat in China. They call it the grass eaters in Japan, right? This is going on all over the world, and what's happening is, Richard Reeves has said it. What's his name? Another guy said it, trying to remember his name. He was saying the exact same thing. In this technological age, with this great separation, you having disaffected males all over the planet, right? And what's happening is they're starting to disengage from not only procreating, but also the work that they do. They said, "The hell with it. What am I working for? None of this society serves me." They give everything to the female. They push the female to center the school. We're at a disadvantage. Why are we working to actually uphold this society, right? So they're starting to disengage. This is becoming a security issue, okay? So now that's like a Richard Reeves and Brookings has to step in on this. And guess who the poster boy for this what we call a gender gap and the disengagement is? It's the black male. That's like we put Tommy Curry's work in the book, which is, I understand how come, Tommy should be forefront. I'm sure he will be at some point, but that was huge. That's why I pointed out that was huge, him putting in the book when Brookings, got to understand who Brookings actually is, right? Okay, Brookings is no slouch. Okay, I've been watching Brookings on C-SPAN for damn near 40 years, right? With these security issues, right? That means something. And that means that the black male, the black male is the crucible, is the canary in the coal mines of what's happening throughout the whole planet, and they're worried. So that's why you know, now you're going to have black females and white females fighting for their position, because what they have done over the past 50 years is not working. And if this stuff spreads, you're going to have an issue not only just here in the United States, but all over the planet. That's why it's so important. That's how come you see these little attacks on Tommy. Okay, they can't attack him, Richard Reeves, because Brookings is going to shut all that down. Okay, so what they're trying to do is undermine this from the bottom up. And that's how come all of a sudden in the rise of the black male agenda, you know, which with the help of y'all, man, and you know, Ronald called it right, the Ice Cube effect, the rise of the black male agenda. They got embarrassed during the midterms, right? They got exposed. Like I said, the math is not math, and this does not equate. Okay, so all this you know, this feminist rhetoric that the feminists being free and getting an advantage will lift all boats, that hasn't happened. In fact, it's worked the opposite way. Okay,
and but let me add to that. Mm-hmm. So not only has Richard Reeves come forth and you know, kind of buttress and undergird some of the things that Curry has already said. Mm-hmm. Now you got people from Stanford and Harvard coming out and saying it, like Raj Chetty, Nathaniel Hendren, Maggie Jones, and Sonia Porter. These, I mean, not only just women, men, but women as well, who are like, look, when it comes to race and economic opportunity in the United States, there is a gender gap, but it's not the one that we've been, you know, taught to believe. It's actually that black males are doing worse than their female counterparts. Yeah. And the wealth gap between blacks and whites is largely driven by the disenfranchisement of black men. Yeah. Now, this is counterintuitive. You know, it's a counterclaim to the claim being made by black feminists, right? Who argue that they need more opportunity because somehow they're being left behind, right? Mm-hmm. Now, the question is, you know, who's going to win? I mean, you know, but the data is telling us. It's just explaining to us. It's screaming to us. Mm-hmm. Look, you're not as disadvantaged as you act like you are. Yeah. You're not doing as poorly as you say you're doing. Now, I mean, not that you're. It's not as if you're doing 1,000. You're not batting 1,000, okay? Mm-hmm. Right. However, you're not hemorrhaging like these black boys are. Yeah. Right. You're not getting siphoned off the prison like these black boys are. You're not being subjected to death and disease like these boys are.
What happens to families? What happens to families? What happens to society when not only black men but also white men just quit because there's no opportunity or service in them for actually participating in this society? What happens when they just quit? And that's what you see happening. You know, it's very difficult to get black men. You know, we worked in. You know, I work in the black male sector, right? Very difficult to actually get black men motivated to actually fight for this system. It really is, because there's nothing in it for them. And we have to fight with something that should be allotted to every citizen in this rich-ass United States. There should not be this level of homelessness. There should not be 10% of your black boys, 90% of your black boys should be able to read at reading level. That's a social crime. But nobody says anything, including our women. Why? I mean, how bad does it have to get? You know, now you got black boys waving passports. You know, the hell with this. I'm gonna take my passport and take my talents outside of the United States because it doesn't serve me anymore. You know, what happens to your society when that starts to happen?
To put it in Afrocentric language, or esoteric Afrocentric. Okay, go ahead.
I'll be right back. Something I got to attend to. Just take a second, but you guys hold it down for me.
We got it for you. Don't worry.
You all right, Doc?
No, we got it. No, we got it. Go ahead, Doc.
Yeah. So you know, there's no ma'at in this culture.
Turn your camera off, Doc. There we go. No, there isn't.
There's no ma'at. There's no balance.
There never has been.
And they're acting as if the balance is because there's an imbalance on the part of men being privileged, regardless as to what their ethnic, racial, or class background is.
It had to be sold like that. I mean, do you really think that it could have been sold any other way? Because you talk about if you want to know where the wealth gap, and black women, black women don't even want to admit this, right? They blame it on black men. You know where the wealth gap went? When you actually give all the economic rights to somebody that doesn't deserve it on the backs of your own civil rights bill, What do you think is going to happen to the wealth gap? It's going to explode. That's what happened.
Yeah,
Basically,
basically all the jobs that should have went to black men went to white women.
It's the white women.
And we can argue that, okay, it was a way to block black women from having like ordinal hierarchical superiority above white women. In actuality, it was a way to block both black men and black women.
But she couldn't say that, could she?
No, she couldn't. But I mean, ultimately, that's what it was. It was a play to actually nullify, to neutralize the Civil Rights Bill. And I mean, these people are so clever. You see her smiling at like the little evil grin.
Yeah.
At the end of the commentary.
Yeah, because if you listen to the whole piece, because it was actually a 30-minute piece, listen to the whole piece. The senator actually introduced it. He thought it was going to get stricken out because he put it in as a joke. Okay, he put it in as a joke. And
Howard Smith?
Yeah. She actually, she that's what she said, right? She said she put it as a joke behind the scenes. She has to, kill the Civil Rights Bill, right? But she saw it as an opportunity. And she's the one that raised the stank and shamed all those white men to leaving it in.
I mean, you all right there, Doc?
Yeah, all's well.
Yeah. But you know, my whole thinking about it is to get either these feminists are incredibly smart and, you know, they're just deflecting and not trying to draw attention to themselves for their own financial gain, and that's it, or they're incredibly naive, bro.
Which one
either they're incredibly naive or they're incredibly shrewd, only to work to what's in their own best interest while they claim that they're actually trying to work in behalf of what's best for the entirety of the black group, you know. And then another thing, you know, going back to what Dr. Johnson said earlier, man, to posit yourself as the penultimate subject and then to argue that after having done so, if your problems are alleviated, then everybody else's problems will be alleviated. That is the biggest crock of nonsense, man. Like, why do people even accept it? At a theoretical level, it's astounding to me. Like, no one has come forth and said this is impractical.
But you know, I can tell you why I think that's gotten so much traction in the academy. I think it's gotten so much traction because the majority of black students are female. The majority of black faculty are female. When you have a predominance, right, of a particular demographic in a given space, their experience can become normalized and it's acceptable because the majority of the people in the conversation share a particular experience. I think that's the only reason that you can be in the academy and deal with, you know, fields relevant to our experience, like black studies, black gender studies, and you get in these conversations and you hear these logic, you know, this logic, and it somehow is acceptable to everybody in the room. You know what I mean? Because when I'm teaching classes, I'm lucky if I got one or two brothers in the class. And when I look at the data around how many black men actually graduate, let alone get out of high school and come to college, we see the numbers. We've talked about them. But there's a preponderance of black women now it's not that black folk constitute a large percentage of the academy in the first place, but of that percentage, when the majority of thought leaders and professors and researchers are black women, that's how you get to this. And somehow it's acceptable.
Yeah. You know, the only thing I can say is, you know, when I initially, because I've taken graduate seminars in feminism, okay? And I didn't really have the most critical, you know, take on feminism at the time in which I was taking the courses, okay? I just have to be, you know, I have to admit that, okay? Right. But as a black man, I thought I was doing service to justice by learning about the claims of disadvantage that other people made in relation to, you know, this culture that we live in. And, you know, but one of the things, you know, you got to be important, you have to know that is important is that, like, when you're taking a course or you're even teaching a course, you know, it's not about what you speak, it's about what you don't speak about. Right. It's not necessarily about what it is you're saying, it's about what you don't add in. Like, what do you omit? What do you exclude? What's occluded from the conversation? Okay? And I can guarantee you, white women, I've taken feminist courses from white women, didn't take any from a black woman, okay?
Okay.
They didn't admit to any racism at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than through, the black female critique, like a Sojourner Truth or later on a Kimberly Crenshaw, right?
Right.
But they don't say that white women, white suffragettes worked to basically undermine the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. They don't say that. Which is essentially what they did. They were like, oh, Reconstruction? You're going to have these darkies running things? Oh my God, how can you dare deal with it? Yeah. And then they are partially responsible for drumming up. You see them as part of the Klan. Look at it. Yeah. They are part of the Klan, bro.
Yes.
Hold on. Look, hold on. Wait a minute. Just in case some people don't believe what it is I'm saying. They are. Why is it stopping?
It states right.
They are part of the Klan. Mm-hmm. It's not like, oh, well, why is this thing not changed? I just don't understand why it doesn't.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm going to make it move. Since you don't want. They are part of the Klan. You see them? Mm-hmm. Do they look like they're oppressed at the Klan? They look like they're in their Sunday's best. They got their little children out there with the baba, with the Klan robe on.
Yeah. They never said they were oppressed. What they said is they didn't want, quote unquote, black women. We use blackness, black people to have rights they were not allowed to have. That's all it was. She admitted that.
And I mean, they basically like, we have to restore order. Mm-hmm. And the order is we run it, not them.
Who are you going to favor, your women or them? That's what they're saying.
And men went out to kill for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I can say I did take classes with Black feminism, both intentionally, and in some classes it didn't matter if you took it intentionally. You took a class because you needed a literature course or you needed whatever, and the professor turned it into a Black feminist course, whether or not you chose it or not, right? I took those classes as well. And at no point did I ever see criticism extended to Black women historically, contemporarily, nothing. Matter of fact, I just had a debate with a colleague of mine about a film, right? We were talking about Harriet, the Harriet film. And this Black feminist colleague of mine, I expressed my problems with it. The Black male slave catcher who's bragging about being with white prostitutes with 2 other white men, right? And not being lynched. And this is the historical image that's put on the screen of Black men. And her argument was, well, there were Black folk who worked against us. It is what it is. And I said, that's interesting, because I've never seen a film cover what Black women did in the same instance in regard to what worked against the community. See, that's not part of the conversation. That's not part of the conversation. Right? We're not going to talk about that. But that's the excuse that's going to be trotted out to have these images of everything from slave catcher to Mr. in Color Purple. Those are acceptable images when it comes to Black folk attacking other Black folk. But when we raise the question of Black women, then all of a sudden, as Gigi said earlier, they got to remain sacrosanct. You can't critique them. They may have historically participated in some things, but we're not really going to talk about that. We're only going to bring that up when we talk about Black men. Right. And this this shit constantly reframes Black men as the problem. And if you critique it, you're still the problem.
Yeah, so that's the issue. But the funny thing is that there have been people who critique women in the past, and they're not even really considered to be misogynistic. Like for instance, Frantz Fanon, he critiques Black women, right, in black skin, white mask. I just don't know that there's some sort of like misogynistic critique aimed at Fanon for saying that women are going. Like, I'm just saying, why is it so anathema for us to critique Black women contemporarily if they're, still harboring some colonial attitudes or, ideology is still ruminating within their politics? Why can't we point it out? David Walker was able to point it out. Frantz Fanon was able to point it out.
But see, here's where I'll give you a little bit of pushback on that. It's not that they didn't say it. It's what's reviewed when it's contemporarily discussed. Like, I'll put it to you this way. Again, going from 1992 to 2008, undergrad to end of my doctorate, I never once heard David Walker addressed where critiques of Black women were taken into account that he made. I never once heard of, when we did talk about Frantz Fanon, any acknowledgement of his critiques of Black women. I never once, even when we talked about Martin Luther King had some problems with what he called the matriarchy in the community. Even hell, I remember even Yvette Carnell did a reading of one of Martin Luther King's books and a discussion with her. At no point do I remember any criticism or any acknowledgement of King's criticism of Black women. And he wasn't even coming hard. He was just acknowledging this matriarchy. He talked about how it formed. He pointed out the problems with some of it. But never once have I heard people publicly talk about King's critiques of Black women. So even when we historically point out that they've occurred, it's considered in bad taste to bring it up, so much so that I can't tell you across 3 different universities in damn near 18 years. I mean, did I ever hear any of these things brought up? Not until the last 5 years online amongst this community of men who are actually trying to make sense of these relationships with Black women. But I've never heard it anywhere else, even if it's been published for generations. Never heard it.
But and I think BGS and yourself can attest to the fact that, well, I can't say it's factual, but my hypothetical understanding, my ruminations would lead me to believe that it's partially because of the kind of gynocratic culture that we've become immersed in within the last 50 to 60 years. It's like, so, Martin Luther King Jr. probably could issue a critique. Fanon probably could issue a critique. David Walker could probably issue a critique without it being perceived as innately misogynistic. Whereas today, I mean, any critique of a woman in any way is misogyny.
Right.
Like, I mean, just being upset at dating and mating issues is misogynistic. And, if you don't want a Black woman or a white woman, a modern, contemporary American, free, independent woman, then you want a sex slave in a third world country to come in and, be barefoot and pregnant and cook and be a domestic worker for you.
Or a white woman, right? Those are the critiques levied. Yeah.
So, I mean, so the whole point is you can't, but how can you critique people and not expect any critique at all? Like, I just don't understand how that works. How, and to me, it's anti-moral. It's immoral.
Right.
It's essentially immoral, okay? And I say this because, as a rule, like deontology, there's only so many ethical theories out there, okay? You got virtue ethics, you got utilitarianism, and then you got deontology, okay? And, those are pretty much the only 3 you can really actually appeal to when it comes to Western culture. But deontology, it clearly states, do not act or operate under a principle that you cannot at the same time will to be a universal law governing all in a kingdom of ends. If that's the case, how can you expect to be able to critique without even being amenable to critique at all? Like, you can say things, but nobody else can say things. You can say men are trash, Black men are trash, but you don't want to be called trash. You can't be, right? So you can engage in deprecating and stigmatizing language, but you don't want it the other way around.
Right.
And I'm an equal opportunity offender. I feel like I'll offend anybody. I just don't care. Okay. But we've given them too much leeway and too much latitude for too long. And it's time to get on their heads. Like, I'm a firm believer that they're going to get this work. They're going to get this work just like everybody else going to get this work. Who are they to say they can't get that work?
But I also look at this not only, and I agree with both of you. I do think this part of this is an expected gynocratic, service, damn near worship on the part of that's expected of Black men. Where in every space imaginable, most particularly public, right? Black men are supposed to bend the knee and kiss the ring in some kind of way that hasn't been clearly articulated out, publicly, like we're forthrightly. It's not articulated as to why this needs to happen. It's just an expectation. But I also think it's a form of emotional labor. Like, we're supposed to, in some kind of way, excuse the historical problems that Black women may have brought to the table But we only can talk about the problems that black men have contributed, and this is done in some kind of way to make them feel better, and that's the goal. Like, that's the only function. You know, you don't embarrass them, you don't publicly critique them, you make them feel good, and you're expected to provide this type of service, this type of labor indefinitely. And to call it out as crass and considered uncouth, to do it is considered what it is to be a good man, and to shut the hell up is the other part of the dynamic. So if you're not actively critiquing other black men in service to the black female image, you just need to shut the hell up and be quiet. These are the only parameters that I've seen that are accepted in the academy, in professional spaces. This is it. And black men have learned the shit so well, we don't even talk about it. We just do it. We do it. And we silently applaud some of the black men that are able to levy these critiques in public. But if those black men find themselves in trouble, how many brothers are willing to publicly come out and support them?
Yeah.
That's the question I have. If Tommy Curry is going to be under attack, how many black men, especially professional black men in the academy, are going to publicly come out and support him? Because to do so is to basically call yourself a misogynist as far as feminist logics go. How many will support him? Now, I don't believe the whole question about misogyny and all that bullshit. I support the brother because I support the argument, I support the work, and I support the consistency. But I can also say I know the man. We just had an exchange 40 minutes ago during the show. I know the man, and I know his heart. I know what he's trying to do. I have nothing but respect for it. And a lot of what I do was inspired by him, but it's my own arguments. You know, I use and reference a lot of his work, but he's not responsible for my arguments. So if anybody has a problem with him via me, bring it to me. But at the end of the day, I can say I respect the man just like I respect the men on this panel and the work they do. And I think we need to support each other because nobody else is about to. Nobody is.
It doesn't benefit them to support us. You know, we are in the place of where they want us to be. And that's what we have found out. It's not something that they don't know or they don't acknowledge, or they don't acknowledge, but they're not stupid, they're not dumb, they know exactly what they're doing. So when we rise up out of our place, the place where we're supposed to be, they get upset because you're supposed to be down there on your knees, your hands and knees, so we can step on you. And when we don't want to get stepped on, oh, what's the problem? What's wrong? You're not kissed, you're not are your tone or your place, you up on your hind legs and acting like you're a human being. Come on.
Right.
That's what it is. They, when you start digging this stuff out, man, like just even reading as you reading Dr. Kenneth Clark's book, right? Just read. They knew, okay. They all said this is a matriarchy. What they fight against? Oh, it's a black patriarchy. They knew it was a lie back then. They knew it was a lie back then. But the thing is, it profits them to keep this lie going. At some point, the game is up.
Right. Yeah. And that's the part we don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
Who benefits? Who profits?
Cui bono, man. Cui bono.
Yeah. And who actually gets policy in their interest? Who actually gets resources in regard to advancing their agenda? I mean, it's a simple question to answer. First of all, Dr. Curry is in fucking Scotland. That should tell you something. How many black male studies departments are there in the United States? How many? I can tell you this much. I only know of one, and it is online. It's called the Institute for Black Male Studies. It's something I started 2 years ago. Yeah. I haven't seen one actually at an academy.
Yeah.
When we talk about this work, who's actually profiting from this? You talk about black gender studies. Right? You go into any gender studies department, any black gender studies department, and you look at, or go into Africana studies and look at who's doing black gender work. You tell me who the majority of those people are. How many of them are heterosexual black men? Tell me that. And at what point do these heterosexual black men have a monopoly on shit that they control? Where somehow the arguments about patriarchy and oppression via black men hold water. Don't worry, I'll wait. It's ridiculous, man.
That's why we're here. That's why because you can't see, no place in this society can black men speak out about their oppression and pain and in their place in the society, right? Not even in, my beloved conscious community, my nationalist community. You can't even say it there. That which hurt my heart, man. The people that are supposed to be fighting for me don't even want to hear me. They
Right.
want me in my place. So I have to come here, hide my name, hide my face, because I can't say it in a place that should be accepting to me. The people that should be fighting for me, people that
Right.
should be uplifting me, they don't.
Right.
And I don't know how you guys do, because I know if I had to go through the same curriculum, I wouldn't make it, man. You guys, I don't know, you guys weave through that minefield and survive, man. Because I know I wouldn't have. They'd have booted me out, man. They saw me coming. No, can't accept you into this program.
Well, a lot of us look. A lot of when I talk about most of the brothers I know that have come on to Black male studies and been able to do that work, a lot of us came into it backwards. We started programs just wanting to do this work, and we discovered it while we were doing it. Because I can tell you, if I had the positions I had now back doing my master's, I might not have even gotten the master's degree. It just happened that I was going in these directions, and it wasn't even clear for me until after I was already teaching full time, and damn near when I was getting tenure. So these things happened organically. But I know a lot of Black male graduate students who've reached out to me who told me they've been either under attack or been pushed out of their programs because they've cited Dr. Curry or they've cited me simply because of the citation, under assault by their advisors. The people on their thesis committees, on their dissertations, they're being assaulted by the people who are supposed to be sheltering them through because they don't like a citation or a research interest that these brothers have. They're not supposed to cite Dr. Tommy Curry. They're not supposed to cite Dr. Hasan Johnson. They're supposed to cite Bell Hooks as the authority on Black men because she said she was, or because others said she was. No research, no citation. She just made statements about Black men willy-nilly. And that's accepted, more accepted than Black male scholars who have done the painstaking work of not only making arguments, but well-researched arguments. That's not considered permissible. It's not. So when I hear these kind of things coming from emails and texts and FB and Facebook messages coming, from Instagram messages, from tweets and Twitter direct messages, I mean, these brothers are coming after me, telling me these stories week by week of how they cannot speak their own minds, and some have been literally pushed out of their programs to the point where they're washing cars.
Yeah, it happened.
They're doing whatever it can take to bring food on the table because they're not allowed to speak their minds. And the people who pushed them out were not white men. They were not white women.
Right. They weren't.
They were mostly Black feminists. How do we deal with that without at least having a conversation, or what BGS in the past has called a redress of grievances? How do we have that? Especially if the whole point of if just raising the conversation is tantamount to misandry. I mean to misogyny.
Yeah.
Just raising it is misogyny. How do we even begin to have that conversation?
Yeah, but just by centering Black men's problems and their issues and their oppression is misogyny. Classified as misogyny now.
Yeah. That's where we are. And that's why we need to make sure that the brothers that are doing this work and doing it publicly, publishing, putting material out, making the arguments that are actually relevant to Black male life, and dedicated to the improvement of the quality of life for Black boys and men, those brothers need to be protected. They need to be protected until we're at a point where Black men can actually stand up in chorus and articulate their experiences unapologetically. The very least we can do is support the brothers that are doing it. So the whole purpose of tonight's show was really about extending support to Dr. Curry and making it known that any attacks against him, he won't be standing alone.
No, he will not. He will not. And basically, if they want to step into the arena, and I'm waiting for it, let them step in. Okay. Let them step in. Hey, you bring your shield, bring your sword, and step down to the middle of to the middle of the arena. Let's go.
Yeah, not that I think that he needs protection or anything like that, but we standing behind you like Verizon, bro. The Verizon man, he's got like a pyramid of cats behind him or whatever. We standing right there. We got your back. But I don't think that these people really actually are going to catch Curry off guard and somehow find the one little thread in this theory that's going to unravel the whole thing. I don't think it's possible.
No, I don't. And it's not that I think that's going to happen, But you know, I think all of us, and I'll just speak for myself, coming into social media and doing this work, there's a way that this shit can become draining that I didn't know existed until I started producing content. I am a content creator. I mean, I heard stories, but this shit can drain you in ways that most people don't understand until they start doing it. And I'm just saying, everybody might have a limit. I think everybody does have a limit. We just don't know where that is all the time, right? And I want Dr. Curry to know, as much as I want everybody else to know, he's supported on the merits of his argument, quality of what he puts into those arguments, and the consistency of the work the man does. I've never seen anybody publish this damn much. I'm telling you, it's ridiculous how much work he puts into defending, articulating, and clarifying the experiences of Black men and boys without really what I would consider the justified amount of fanfare. He gets very little, in my opinion, nowhere near what he deserves for the amount of work he does. And I would say the same about the two men on this panel with me, which is one of the reasons I support them, and I'm going to continue to. And that's what I think Dr. Curry needs, not because he can't take it, but simply because he shouldn't have to stand on that stage alone. And if he at all ever needs support,
he's going to get support whether he likes it or not. And basically, you know, if he wants to stand in the arena by himself, tough luck, sir. Okay, we in there with you.
Yeah,
tough luck. You know? And I always said, I said the same thing about Kevin, right? Your enemies can spread your name 20 times faster than your friends can. Go for it. We are the tar baby. If you haven't realized it yet, go ahead and go at him. Okay, go ahead and go at him. But think you open up a lane for us to go at you too. Go ahead, expose yourself, put your name out there. Okay, let us know who you are. Instead, come out of the shadows. You're doing it in the shadows right now, where we can't find you. Come out.
But here's the thing, man. Like one thing that you have to be understanding about related to Dr. Curry's work is he ain't punching down. He's not referencing like, you know, assistant professors or the work of Reese and Scott. He's attacking the archetypal foundational theorists related to a specific area of inquiry. So he's coming out the bell hooks. Kimberly Crenshaw, Catherine McKinnon, Andrea Dworkin, Menachem Amir. He's not coming after
Richard Reeves came after Kimberly Crenshaw and intersectionality. He sure did. So
I mean, So the whole point is, but these theories have become, you know, I guess they've become like idealistic, fetishistic. That's the best word I can say.
Yeah,
they become fetishistic.
Yes,
there are people who are adherents to these views. I mean, they're intuitively plausible, and they kind of resonate with people's feelings and emotions about things. But you know, the academy is not just about how you feel.
Right.
It shouldn't be anyway. Not to say that it should exclude feelings. That's not what I'm saying. But I mean, we can't just predicate everything about how we feel, and it's specifically about how white women feel and their kind of value systems and their kind of, you know, understandings and musings about reality. That we can't just. I'm quite frankly, I'm sick of white women's ethics, man. And the people who espouse it, whether it be gay Black men, whether it be gay Black women, or straight Black women. I don't care who you are. I'm tired of white women's ethics, man, because you know what white women's ethics really is?
What's that?
It's passive-aggressive aggression.
Yeah.
It's aggression through shaming and reputation ruination. That's what it is.
And proxy.
Because that's what women do when they are basically exercising aggression against people. They do it to each other all the time. They try to ruin each other's reputations, right? And they do use proxy violence as well. Okay, so yeah, I mean, we're seeing aggression everywhere, but we refuse to acknowledge it as such. So you know, it is what it is, bro. I'm about to.
I appreciate both y'all coming up. I want to give you an opportunity for closing thoughts on this. Go ahead and start with the Green Gorilla himself.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, man, thank you for joining me. And my last words are, man, keep the faith, man. Fight the good fight.
Shout yourself out. Shout yourself out.
Well, I got my page, man, my channel. It's the Green Gorilla channel on YouTube. Now, if you come there, I'm not going to speak like I'm speaking today. I'm pretty much calm down. I'm, being kind of like level-headed, but I'm profane and, I'm emotive on my channel because of some of the experiences I've had. And,
Right.
I give you a guttural reaction, to some of the things that I'm going through. And I think we need that.
Yeah.
To some degree. I'm not saying that there's no place for level-headedness. Of course there is. But there also should be a place for us to be able to vent and to let off our frustrations in a way that's untrammeled and unfiltered. And I don't think we get enough of that, okay? Yeah. And I try to give it to you at least. Yeah, I'm a thinker, but I'm also a human being who knows anger, sorrow, ambivalence, and apathy and the whole nine. So, I'm complex, man. I just want to give it to you raw, but I still want to give you the theory. So that's where I'm at with it, man. Peace out to y'all, man. Love y'all, man. Have a good one. Holla at you next time.
Appreciate you, Gigi.
Y'all support the Green Gorilla channel right here on YouTube. And let the brother know you appreciate his work. All right. Brother BGS, man, any closing thoughts?
You know what? People looked at this as an attack. I looked at this as an opportunity, but you know me. I love it, man. I love it. Yeah, go ahead and spread it. Tell them about the man now. Put it out in the publication. Put it out. Go ahead and attack it. I will want to see a debate about the man out at Columbia, in the halls of Columbia.
Yeah.
I want to see it. Harvard. Go ahead. Hey, Harvard, all the Ivy League schools, all the way down. Bring them on. Bring them on stage. Let them know who this guy is.
Real talk.
Real talk. I mean, hey, they worked for Malcolm. It worked for, worked for Muhammad Ali. Worked for Mike Tyson. It worked for Kevin Samuels. I would love to see people mention Tommy Curry in the same vein, or along the same equal spotlight as Kevin got.
Right.
Love him or hate him. Okay, but you have to deal with the truth. You got to deal with the facts. So, go ahead and punch at that tar baby and see what happens.
So go ahead and punch at him.
Oh yeah. You know what happened when Brer Rabbit went after the tar baby?
Goodness. Well, I haven't done a show in a minute. I took the week, and BGS knows I spent the whole time really just spending some time with my son, teaching him recipes, cooking together. And sometimes you got to take those little breaks, you know what I mean? But I really want to extend my appreciation to the Green Gorilla and of course BGS IBMOR, because when I called and asked if they were willing to come in and comment on this, they didn't hesitate, and it's much appreciated in ways that these brothers probably don't know. So I want to extend that thanks. I want to thank everybody in the comments, everybody in the chat who came through to support the show. Spread the word about the work we're doing. Spread the concepts, spread the references, the citations, the videos. Spread this information, most particularly to other Black men and boys, so we can get the conversation going from our own context. So we don't use other people's zeitgeist to try and explain what we're going through. We actually reference ourselves and the work that's already being done. So I want to first put that out there, and I also want to, give y'all a little sense of what I'm about to get into when I get off the show, because this is BGS knows about this. Yeah, man.
Only you, Doc.
Hey, man. I do all of the Thanksgiving trimmings and all of that. I do that as well. But as something my wife started, she makes this is what happened. I told her that I like gumbo. We first got married, and she said, I know how to make that. And mind you, I didn't know anybody that knew how to make that. So on our first Thanksgiving together, she made a pot of gumbo for me as a gift. She taught me the recipe, and after she passed, every year I make a pot in memory of her and an appreciation of it, and because I love it. So now this is it was probably 2/3 more in there before I took the picture. But this is what I'm about to go jump off into, to get this in. So I appreciate y'all, but I got to get my bowl.
You got the sourdough bread ready too?
Got the sourdough. Man, you know what's up, man. Come on. So when look, now I'm very particular who I invite. So if I tell you you got a standing place at my table, BGS, know that plate is waiting on you. Come on through and get you a plate. You know what I mean? But this is what I'm, gonna get into when we get off here, because I love to cook,
Mm-hmm.
and I love to cook things to my taste, and
Mm-hmm.
I just want to get that in.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, you do things on steroids. That's gumbo on steroids, man.
Yeah, right.
I didn't see nothing else but crab legs in there,
Oh,
man. That's gumbo on steroids.
trust me, that's just the top. Now I have broken spoons off in my gumbo trying to get through it. Trust me when I tell you, it's way more than crab legs up in that bad boy. Oh yeah, I do that roux like a surgeon, boy. Myself Pacific. But anyway, man, I just want to thank both of y'all for coming through. So shout out to y'all. So let me go ahead and I'm gonna take you down. Anything did I cut you off? I want to make sure you got
No. Basically, this is the clarion call, man, because rightfully so. Dr. Curry's not in the manosphere, but guess what? The manosphere still has his back. Okay, you come after him, you come after us.
right.
So and Dr. Curry doesn't punch down. Guess what we do? We have no problem about punching down. Okay,
Yeah.
so come at us.
And I can tell you, he was listening to this broadcast, so he knows the support is there. Your voices are being heard. Let's continue this work.
Yeah. We're the unwashed masses, but we support you, doctor.
All right, man.
All right.
So again, thank y'all for supporting the show. Make sure that you also support the show in another way. We got the Patreon, the Cash App, the PayPal, the Venmo. You can also, when you go to Patreon, you can support the Onyx Report right here on YouTube. You can support the Institute for Black Male Studies either through monthly donation, or you can go ahead and check out the merchandise and support that way. You can also support the Onyx Network, right? You can find this, you can download it on your iPhone, your Android, Amazon Fire TV, Roku. It is 24/7, 365, right? It is myself, the work we're doing here online, and other brothers who are in alignment with this work who've given me permission to broadcast their shows. We do have a TV network that is available 24/7. So make sure you support the Onyx Network. And again, you can do that through Patreon as well, and as well by getting the word out there and watching the channel. So that said, again, appreciate y'all. I'll holler at y'all soon. Y'all have a good night. Peace.